So far in this series, we've looked at working and earning, and then we looked at saving, and then we looked at investing for retirement. We looked at giving, and now I want to look at spending. And that's roughly the order that things should happen in, though they happen in opposite order, like I've mentioned before, in much of our culture, but that shouldn't be with us. The time to spend is not when you get your first paycheck. You got to spend a little, but the time to enjoy the fruit of your labor is not then. It's after you've worked, earned, saved, invested, given all those things. Then it's time to enjoy some of the fruit of your labor. So I want to talk about spending, and I want to talk about both aspects of it. I want to talk about how we need to control our spending, how we need to be frugal with our spending, and then later, maybe next week or the week after, I want to talk about enjoying the fruit of our labor. And spending is a good thing in that time in life. It just depends where you are in life, whether spending is something you should be doing or you should not be doing. If you are in debt, you should not be spending your extra money. If you're in debt, all your extra money should be going on your debt. You should be paying off your debt. Once you get that paid off, then you get a 3 to 6 month emergency fund saved up. At that point, you're intense, right? I'll talk about this later, but you're using intensity at that time. Pay off the debt, get the 3 to 6 months saved up, and then after that point, then you can be intentional instead of being intense. And then you can lighten up a little bit, and that's when you start putting 15% into retirement, into investments, and then if you have left over after that, you start putting extra on your house to get the house paid off quickly. And then after you get the house paid off and you are completely 100% debt-free, and then you're laying up that 15% per year, at that point, then you can finally take a nice, long, deep sigh, breath of fresh air, and say, now I can actually start to enjoy some of the fruit of my labor, and you'll have plenty of margin to do that. Most people do it all backwards. That's not the way to do it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about spending. The key to spending money wisely is the key to doing nearly everything in life well, and that is moderation. Moderation is the key to everything in life, including money. Philippians 4 and verse 5. Philippians 4 and verse 5. Let your moderation be known unto all men, the Lord is at hand. Let your moderation be known unto all men. So in other words, you should live in such a way that all men, people in the church, people outside the church, people you work with, your family, your friends, everybody, that all men can see you live in moderation. You are moderate in your behavior, your spending, your consumption of food, drink, anything, everything in life. We should live in such a way that people recognize that we are moderate people. Moderation is the action or an act of moderating. It is limitation, restriction, a fixed limit. This is where we get into so much trouble in our lives in every area, is we don't put limitations on ourselves. We don't put restrictions on ourselves. We don't put fixed limits on ourselves. And when we don't do that, somebody will. Somebody will put a limitation on you. Somebody will put a restriction on you. It may be the bank. It may be the law. It may be the judge. It'll be somebody. Somebody's going to put a restriction on you. If you don't put it on yourself, somebody else will. Your debt will put a restriction on you. It will encroach upon you further and further and further and further until you are literally a slave to it and you can do nothing else. Somebody will limit you if you don't limit yourself. It's control, rule, governance. It's the quality of being moderate in various senses, now only with reference to conduct, opinions, demands, desires, or their indulgence. Avoidance of extremes. That's another key area of moderation. And moderation isn't only limiting the amount of something you do, but it covers the other end too, where you do a little bit of something. Right? To be moderate is to do some, but not too much. To not do anything is not to be moderate, right? Then that's total abstention. And that's not good in most things anyway. I mean, there are certain things that you want to totally abstain from, but many things in life, it's not total abstention. And it's not going hog wild either. It's somewhere in the middle. That's moderation. Self-control, temperance. Occasionally, avoidance of severity or rigor, leniency, clemency. See, avoidance of severity. So you could be, when it comes to your money, you could be too severe on yourself. You could make it so that you never enjoy a second of your life because every single thing, you're always counting the pennies. You can't allow yourself to do anything fun. That's not good either. That's not good either. So we must therefore exercise self-control when it comes to everything we do, including how we spend money. And this is why the country's in debt up to its eyeballs. This is why most people are. They don't have moderation. They don't have control. They don't have self-control. When they see it, they want it, they buy it. Period. As long as some bank will give them a loan for it, as long as there's still some balance left on their credit card, whatever I want, I get. That's what most people do today, and that's why the country is in a complete mess, and families are in a complete mess. Now, moderation in spending and in saving, for that matter, will, over the long run, result in prosperity. And this is a really interesting verse that I found as I was putting this study together. Back in the book of Joel, in the Minor Prophets, I just thought this is really interesting. Joel chapter 2 and verse 23 and 24. Joel 2, 23 through 24. Be glad then, O children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month. So the Lord is exercising moderation. He's giving them the rain moderately. He's not flooding them, and he's not sending them a drought, right? He's giving them a moderate amount of rain. And what is the result when moderation is exercised? Look at this. And the floors shall be full of wheat, and the fats shall overflow with wine and oil. A moderate amount of rain causes the fruits to overflow. What would have happened if the Lord gave no rain? There would be no fruits. What would have happened if he would have given them 10 inches of rain every single day all year long? There would be no fruit, right? Moderation. A moderate amount of rain brings prosperity. A moderate amount of spending also brings prosperity. We should be temperate in all things, the Bible teaches us. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 9 and verse 25. I don't want you to get the impression in this series that I'm just saying save, 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 never spend anything, never enjoy yourself. That's not what I'm doing. I haven't gotten to the fun part yet. But the reason why I've been emphasizing the save, 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 and pay down debt and all that is because like 99% of people, that's where they are. Right? So that's where my emphasis goes because, most people aren't where they should be. But once you get to where you should be, it's a different story. You live your life totally different. It's just like Ramsey says. I love the saying, live like no other, so that later you can live and give like no other. But if you live like everybody else, you're going to be broke like everybody else. 1 Corinthians 9 and verse 25. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. So Paul is making an analogy here. He's talking about preaching the gospel and doing spiritual things. And he's making an analogy that people that in sports that strive for the mastery, they have to be temperate in all things. If you're going to be an Olympic athlete, you're going to be temperate in your food, right? That doesn't mean you're never going to eat food. Right? That means you're going to probably eat a lot of food, but you're going to eat the right amounts of food. You're going to be very, very careful and very intentional about what you eat. You're going to exercise. You're going to sleep right. You're going to get a moderate amount of sleep. You're not going to sleep all day, and you're certainly not going to get 2 hours of sleep every night, right? You're going to get a moderate, correct amount of sleep, a moderate, correct amount of food, a moderate, correct amount of exercise. If you exercise 24/7, you're not going to be able to be an Olympian, right? Because you're going to totally wear your body out and it's not going to work. If you never exercise, you're not going to be an Olympian, right? You've got to have a moderate amount, right? So people that do that are temperate in all things, like their life revolves around it, which is probably not a good thing when you're focused on being an Olympian. If your life revolves around being an Olympian and you're so disciplined, right, that's a great model of discipline, but in my opinion, it's a stupid thing. You've just focused your entire life on something that doesn't matter, right? Who wants to focus their entire life? Who wants to spend their entire life on something that doesn't matter, right? But we have to be the same way in life. We have to be temperate in all things if we're going to succeed in life, spiritually and materially. Temperate is of persons, their conduct, practices, etc. It is keeping due measure, self-restrained, moderate. There's that word again, self-restrained. You have to do it yourself. No Olympian ever got to the Olympics by somebody else putting restraints on him. No Olympian ever got there. The only Olympians that make it there are self-restrained people. And the only people that end up doing well with wealth are self-restrained people, moderate people. It means moderate and self-controlled as regards the indulgence of appetites or desires, abstemious, sober, continent, and in later use specifically moderate or abstemious, which means to abstain, I assume, or abstemious in the use of alcoholic drinks. Now, temperance, which is a cognative temperate, temperance is the practice or habit of restraining oneself in provocation, passion, desire, etc., rational self-restraint. There you have it again. One of the 4 cardinal virtues. Self-restraint and moderation in action of any kind. So this applies to money, just like it applies to anything else. In the expression of opinion, etc. Suppression of any tendency to passionate action, like whipping out your credit card when you just have to have that thing and swiping it, signing on that dotted line when you just have to have that new car or whatever, right? It's suppression of your tendency to passionate action. In early use, especially self-control, restraint, or forbearance when provoked to anger or impatience. So we must practice self-restraint when indulging our appetites and desires, and this is directly connected to spending money. What do you spend your money on? Your appetites and your desires. That's the only thing you spend money on, or things that you absolutely just have to. Appetites and desires. What is it? Food, drink, clothing, housing, transportation, whatever. Appetites and desires. That's what you spend money on. We have to self-restrain ourselves with those things if we're going to do well with money. So temperance is critical. Critical. Look at what the Scripture says about temperance. First of all, it's a fundamental tenet of faith in Christ. Let's look at Acts 24:24 through 25. Acts 24:24 through 25. This is when Paul was in prison and the governor was coming to him to hear the gospel. And after certain days, when Felix came with his wife Drusilla, which was a Jewess, he sent for Paul and heard him concerning the faith in Christ. And here's what Paul reasoned to him. So here is what Paul thought were apparently the most important things for this man to hear when it concerns the faith in Christ. And he reasoned of righteousness. That's important, doing the right thing, being holy, being righteous. Reasoned of righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come. Felix trembled and answered, "Go thy way for this time. When I have convenient season, I will call for thee." Felix didn't want to hear about that. He didn't want to hear about righteousness, temperance, and judgment to come. He's probably like most people. They don't want to be temperate. I want to do whatever I want. I want to fulfill all my lusts and desires when I want, how I want, wherever I want. Felix didn't want to hear about that. And he didn't want to hear about judgment to come, that's for sure. So a fundamental tenet of the faith is temperance. It's a fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:22 through 23. Galatians 5:22 through 23. Like I said, temperance It's all relative. It depends where you are. Is it temperate to buy a $100,000 car? It totally depends. If you make $50,000 a year and you have no money saved, no, it's not temperate. That's the craziest, stupidest thing in the world. If you make $1 million a year and you've got $10 million in your retirement, a $100,000 car, of course that's temperate. That's pennies. That's nothing. Go ahead, enjoy it. Buy 2 or 3 of them, right? It just all depends. It depends where you are. It depends your situation. Galatians 5, 22 through 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. Temperance is a fruit of the Spirit. Now, he listed it last. Does that mean it's least important, or did he save the best for last? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. But the point is, it is one of the fruits of the Spirit. Temperance. So you are not living a Spirit-filled life if you buy everything you want when you want it. If you are in debt up to your eyeballs, you are not living a Spirit-filled life. You are not exercising temperance. That's a fact, period. There's all kinds of other things that you could also be doing not to lead a Spirit-filled life, but that's one of them. Temperance is one of them. Temperance is a requirement for the ministry. Titus 1, 7 through 8. Titus 1, 7 through 8. This is why I would say that a man that's in debt is not outside of a mortgage for his house, is not, in my opinion, is not qualified for the ministry, period. Number one, he's not an example to other people. And number two, he's not temperate. If you got debt, you're not temperate, period. Titus 1, 7 through 8. For a bishop must be blameless as the steward of God. Notice that 4-letter word there, must. For a bishop must be blameless as the steward of God, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre, but a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate. So a bishop must be temperate, in addition to a bunch of other things there. That would mean temperate in his food and drink. That means temperate in his spending. That means temperate in his relationships and whatever he does. He has to be temperate. But it's not just preachers. Temperance is a requirement for old men. Titus 2 and verse 2. Let's just start with verse 1. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience. It's one thing for younger people to be intemperate and be stupid. It's another thing for old people to be intemperate and be stupid. Right? It's kind of expected that young people are intemperate and dumb and just buy whatever they want unless they've been taught well. That's what a lot of them do. That's kind of natural. If you're an old person and you do that, you're screwed up. I mean, that's ridiculous. Old people should not be like that. Old people should be examples, good examples, that is, not examples for us all to look at and say, oh, don't want to do that. And then temperance is a Christian virtue, which must be added to our faith to make our calling and election sure. Let's look at 2 Peter 1, 5 through 11. 2 Peter 1, 5 through 11. And beside this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye should neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord and of our Lord Jesus Christ. But he that lacketh these things, including temperance, so the guy that swipes his credit card all the time, running up debt, taking out car loans and all this stuff that he can't afford. But he that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off. He can't see the day of reckoning that's coming. He can't see all this interest he's going to pay. He can't see all this trouble that's in his future. He cannot see afar off, and hath forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. Wherefore, the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if ye do these things, ye shall never fall. For so an entrance shall be ministered unto you abundantly into the everlasting kingdom of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I honestly have never read this passage before and thought about finance. I haven't. But it fits. Temperance has to do big time with finance. Of course, I'm just emphasizing that one particular thing. This passage is teaching a whole lot more than that. So don't limit this passage to talking about credit card debt. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. But it's part of it. It's part of it. So if you have expensive taste and you indulge it regularly, and that's the key, if you indulge it regularly, you will be poor. Let's look at Proverbs 21, 17 through 20. It's one thing to have expensive taste. It just depends on how often you indulge it. I mean, theoretically, you could have expensive taste and never buy anything. You just like nice things. Well, you're not going to be poor. But if you like really nice, expensive things and you do it all the time, you're going to be poor. Proverbs 21 and verse 17. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. The implication in the passage is if you love pleasure and you actually pursue it, right? I mean, who here doesn't love pleasure? Who here loves pain more than pleasure? I just love it. I mean, I love it when I stub my toe. I love it when I break my leg. I love it when I snap a tooth off. And I just hate it when I'm feeling well. I mean, who feels like that, right? Everybody loves pleasure, clearly, right? But it's talking about indulging in that pleasure regularly, obviously, right? He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. It's talking about buying and drinking that wine and having that oil and, using it, right? That's what it's talking about. I love wine. I mean, I rarely buy a glass. It's very expensive. Every now and again I will. So, if you love wine and you indulge it a few times a year or something like that, one glass a few times a year, you're going to be fine. If you go out every night and have a glass of wine for $10, you're going to be poor. You're going to be poor. Verse 20. There is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. So the wise man has the treasure and the oil in his dwelling. He doesn't blow it all, in other words. So if you have expensive taste, you just have to limit it. I like quality things. I would rather buy one quality thing than buy a whole bunch of junk that I don't need or I'm going to have to replace. Some things it makes sense to buy quality. Some things it doesn't matter. But some things it makes sense. I buy a new computer about every 10 years. I don't buy the most expensive one in the world, but I buy like a $1,000 laptop. I don't buy a $200 or $300 laptop and buy it every 2 or 3 years or whatever, and then have to deal with all the headache of trying to replace it. And that's a big pain in the neck, right? So there's some things that make sense to spend money on. I spent $25 on my Yeti mug, and I absolutely love that thing, and I've got untold pleasure out of that mug. Yeah, I could have saved 10 or $15 and bought a cheap knockoff that doesn't feel good on your hand, maybe doesn't even keep it warm as long. Even if it did keep it warm as long, it doesn't feel good, like has rough edges on it, it's cheap and chintzy and light, just a piece of junk, right? Yeah, I could have spent, 8 years ago, I could have saved $10 and then had 8 years of just kind of like, man, I hate this thing. Or I could have ponied up and spent $10 and had like 8 years of exquisite pleasure with my Yeti mug, right? There are some things that just make sense to pay quality for. I've told you my recliner chair. I paid good money for that thing. I don't regret it for 1 second. That is an awesome chair. It's a high quality chair. I can sit in it comfortably. I'm different than most people, and I'm serious. I can't sit in almost anything. Anything that's comfortable for you, chances are my lower back is going to kill me if I sit in it for more than about a minute. I'm not even joking. So I have to look for specific things. And I found this chair, and it's awesome. It's wonderful. I love it. I'd have spent that money again 1,000,000 times over. It's worth spending the money on. I don't skimp on furniture. I don't go to thrift stores or garage sales or whatever. Some people don't care, but I care. Like, that's important to me to get quality. I don't have like super expensive stuff, but I got something that's quality and it lasts. I've seen people buy, you know, these cheap couches at the furniture store, the cheapest one you can find. Cushions are shot like in like no time, 6 months. The cushions are just all, there's nothing left in them right there. You go buy another one. It doesn't make any sense. You know, buy something decent. That's what I think anyway. So you can enjoy good things, quality things. You just can't have it all. You've got to you got to pick and choose what's important to you, and you know, save up the money and buy something quality if it's really worth it to you. But having wine taste on a beer budget is a recipe for poverty. And that's what most of our countrymen have. Wine taste on a beer budget. Spending too much money on eating out and drinking will make you poor. Proverbs 23:21. This is a big one. This is a big one. This is probably one of people's biggest discretionary spending categories, I would say. It would be eating and drinking. Eating out, you can blow a lot of money on eating out. I'm not saying never eat out. I like to eat out too. But I'm moderate in it. I limit myself. I've got the envelope every month. Proverbs 23 and verse 21. For the drunkard, that's the guy that drinks too much, and the glutton, that's the guy that eats too much, shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. That's the guy that sleeps too much. You put those three things together, you got a guy that sleeps and doesn't work enough, and he drinks and eats a lot, he's definitely going to be poor. But even if you do work a lot, if you drink and eat a lot, eating out and drinking out, especially drinking out, my goodness, $10 for a glass of wine, I don't know, what's a glass, beer, $5-6 for a beer. A lot of people go out and do that, have like 2 or 3 of them sometimes per meal, and do that several times per week. I mean, yeah, you're going to be poor. There's no doubt about it. Now, this next point here would have surprised you if I wouldn't have done the spoiler here several weeks ago. Maybe you already forgot about it, and maybe it'll be like the first time you heard it again, so that would be neat because this is a cool point. And that is, believe it or not, millionaires spend less on groceries, eating out, and clothing than the general American population does. Most people would not suspect this or even believe it. They think, no way, I know what millionaires are like. They're the ones that I see on TV. They're out there living that lavish lifestyle. No. Those are mostly broke people, or they're the exceptional, like the centimillionaires, you know, like people that are extremely wealthy, probably won't be for long, but, you know, they are, at the moment anyway, sports stars and movie stars and all that. They'll be broke eventually, most of them. But, you know, for the time being anyway, they can live lavish lifestyles. But that's not what your average millionaire does, not at all. So this is from Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps Millionaires book that I recently read. And he did a study, the largest study of millionaires ever conducted. It was called the National Study of Millionaires. This was done in 2017. So this was back in the day. You remember, like, back in the good old days, 8 years ago, when things cost half as much as they do today? Remember that? Remember those days? Okay, so the numbers are a little different, you know, so you'd have to add some to them. But he does comparisons in the numbers, so it doesn't really matter. He compares what millionaires spend with what the average American spends, and you're gonna see something here that's going to blow your mind. Based on the research, the average millionaire in this study spends approximately $412 each month on groceries as a group. How much did you spend on groceries in 2017? Think about it. Think about it. Meanwhile, one report from the USDA states that a comparable family in the general population spends more than $582 a month on groceries. Significantly more. The average American family spends significantly more on groceries than the average millionaire does in this country. So, in general, it can be said that millionaires are more frugal than non-millionaires in their approach to grocery shopping. And you know what? That's why they're millionaires. Just one of the many reasons why they're millionaires. Now, I've got the millionaires beat. Definitely in 2017, now I don't know, maybe there's a family of four, so that'd be a different story, but we were spending way less than $412 per month. We still spend less than $412 per month with all this inflation on groceries. I don't know if that was a family of two or three or four or what, I'm not sure. But the point is, like I said, millionaires on average spend way less than non-millionaires on food, on groceries. Now you're probably thinking, well, yeah, that's because they go out to eat every night. They don't buy any groceries hardly because they're going out to eat at these nice restaurants all the time. That's why they don't spend anything on groceries. And if you thought that, you would be wrong. Next quote. The median millionaire in this study stated that they spend less than $200 each month at restaurants. Now, I don't know if you keep track of your spending. You should be. I told you to do that the other sermon. I hope you're doing every single thing I've told you in this study without missing a single beat. But if you're keeping track of your spending, and if you were, 8 years ago, were you spending less than $200 per month at restaurants? Or were you spending more than that? Be honest with yourself. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the median American household spends approximately $251 eating out each month. Now, like I said, 8 years ago, food going out to eat is much more expensive now. But still, that shows that the average or the median American family was spending 25% more than the median millionaire was on going out to eat. So the millionaire's got them beat at the grocery store, the millionaire's got them beat at the restaurants. That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, all these years later, we spend way less than $200 a month going out to eat at restaurants. 8 years later, when things are way more expensive. I mean, most people spend that in nothing. I mean, you wouldn't have to go out to eat hardly at all to spend over $200 a month at restaurants. Figure 19 demonstrates that roughly 2/3 of millionaires spend less than $300 at restaurants each month, with 36% spending less than $150. Only 17% spend more than $450 a month, dispelling the image of a stereotypical millionaire eating out at extravagant restaurants every night. The research shows that a vast majority of millionaires are much more frugal than their general population counterparts. That's why they're millionaires. Because they're not like their average American counterparts who are going out and blowing crazy amounts of money on restaurants every month. It's like Dave Ramsey says, if you're in debt, except for your house, the only time you should see the inside of a restaurant is if you're working at one. Like, you don't go out to eat. If you're in debt outside of your house, you don't go to restaurants. You don't spend any money on anything like that. All of it goes to the debt. Get rid of the debt. Restaurants is a huge part of that. Now, what about clothing? Right? We all think of millionaires running around in nice, flashy clothing and cufflinks and expensive shirts and shoes and designer everything, right? That's what millionaires do, right? Wrong. The millionaires included in this study reported that they spend an average of $117 a month on clothes. That sounds like a ton of money to me, honestly. While the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the average American household spends $154 a month. Like I said, comparatively, millionaires spend a lot less on clothing than non-millionaires. Now, honestly, and I'm not even exaggerating, I'd say my wife and I probably don't even spend $117 a year on clothing. I looked at my stats recently. I didn't have it going back too many years, but for the last 2.5 years, it's not much more than $117 per year, not per month. You can save a ton of money going to thrift stores, that's for sure. And you know what else will save you a ton of money? Eating moderately. If you don't get fat and you can wear your clothes for 10 years instead of wearing them for 10 months and then replacing them and then 10 months and then replacing them and 10 months and replacing them, you can save a ton of money if you just maintain weight and don't get fat. Right? That's a big thing too. But thrift stores, boy, I'll talk about that later. You can save a ton of money at thrift stores. Do I like shopping at thrift stores? Absolutely not. I hate it. I hate it. It's a pain in the neck. It's time consuming sometimes, but have I saved hundreds and thousands of dollars over the course of my lifetime doing it? You bet I have. You see this outfit here? Look at this. Isn't it bad? It's not bad looking, is it? You know where I got this? Thrift store. Not the shoes. I never buy shoes at a thrift store. You can't buy shoes. I can't buy shoes at a thrift store. Because for me, I chasing another rabbit. You see these shoes right here? I like to have one pair of shoes, like one pair of normal shoes, and then one pair of sneakers for walking, and then a pair of boots or something like that. But one pair of shoes. I want one pair of shoes that I can wear when I go out. I was going to say to the mall, like 20 years ago. When I go out anywhere, when I go to church, when I go to a wedding, when I go to a funeral, when I go to a restaurant, when I go to a birthday party, when I go anywhere, I want one pair of shoes. I can wear these things with jeans. I don't hardly ever wear jeans anymore. I can wear these with jeans. I can wear these with the fanciest suit I can have. I can wear these with everything. I looked very carefully and found a pair of shoes that I can wear with everything. And then I spent a nice amount of money. I spent $150 on these shoes, and they're awesome. They're wonderful. They're comfortable. Worth every penny of it. I bought these exact ones that look just like these, like 12 years ago. Wore them for about 10 years. They still looked like they were brand new. And eventually the soles started to crack on the bottoms of them after 10 years of use, and my feet would get wet when I was walking on wet pavement. I had to replace them. You know what I did? I went on Amazon. First of all, I went on their website, Echo. Echo shoes are wonderful. And I found the same shoes, except they don't make them anymore. They make another one that looks somewhat like them, but in my opinion, not as good. I didn't like them as well. These were their number one bestseller, I was told, after I bought them. So I went on Amazon and I found them. Some warehouse in the UK had a bunch of them, and they were selling. I actually got them cheaper than the first pair. Like 10 years later, I paid like $135 for them. So I got the exact same pair. I still have the old ones. I could wear them on a dry day. You just can't wear them when it's raining. But anyway, or I could have spent $40 on 10 different pairs of shoes for 10 different types of outfits that wear out every couple of years, right? And spent way more money in the long run. Same thing with coats. I never buy, I'm not saying you can't do any of this. I never buy a coat at a thrift store. I would, except I can never find one that I want. Same thing. A coat, it's got to be practical, it's got to be warm, and it's got to look good. And I've got to be able to wear it to a funeral, a wedding, to church, to a restaurant, to a birthday party, to walking down the street. I want to be able to wear it everywhere. I want it to look good in all those situations, and I want it to be warm and comfortable and practical. It's hard to find a coat like that. But when I find one, I buy it, and I wear it for 10 years until it wears out, and I buy another one. I got one here a couple of years ago. Loved it. I didn't even have to spend that much money for it, a little over $100. But anyway, that's why I don't buy stuff like that at the thrift store. Yes, I could spend the rest of my life combing every thrift store in the world to try to find that exact perfect coat, and I'd never find it. It's not worth it. Not worth the time. In my opinion anyway. All right, so where was I? I just got ahead of myself. I was going to talk about thrift stores later. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, I was on the clothing one. That was a fat rabbit. So the average millionaire, $117 a month that for household, and $154 a month for the average American household. Now I realize when you have kids, clothes are a lot more expensive because they're growing out of them every few months or whatever. So that's a different story. I understand why people would have to spend more money than I do, obviously, on clothes. But now, a man who spends money indiscriminately and wastefully will quickly blow through his inheritance and have nothing. Remember the prodigal son, Luke 15, 11 through 14. Luke 15, 11 through 14. And getting back to the shoes, if you just get yourself some kiwi and an application brush and a horsehair brush and I brush them up every Sunday morning, you can make these, the shoes look like brand new for 10 years. Now, if you don't take care of them, you never brush them and you never polish them or anything, then they're going to look like suede. You don't want that. But anyway, Luke 15, 11 through 14. This is the younger son, Jesus is starting the parable here. He says, And he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divideth unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. And when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in the land, and he began to be in want. See, this is the problem with spending irresponsibly. Yeah, it feels good in the beginning when you're just enjoying yourself and you're spending money like a drunken sailor. Anybody that does that is not expecting a dearth to happen in the land. But he should be. You should be expecting bad things to happen, because that's life. That's what happens. If you live your life thinking, well, it'll be all right because my life is going to be exactly how it is right now for the rest of my life. I'm going to have the same income. Everything is going to be just the same. That's not how life works. That's why you save money. You stay out of debt. You have margin, because then if something bad happens, it's not a catastrophe like it was for this guy. You're not going to be eating slop with the pigs like he had to. So if you spend wastefully, you're not going to have much to spend in short order. This is from Thomas J. Stanley in The Millionaire Next Door that I've quoted from quite a bit. Many people who live in expensive homes and drive luxury cars do not actually have much wealth. Now, that was no surprise to me. Probably is a surprise to a lot of people, but that's no surprise to me. People who live in expensive homes and drive luxury cars are not wealthy. They are broke. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are broke. Then we discovered something even odder. Many people who have a great deal of wealth do not even live in upscale neighborhoods. And that's very true. Many wealthy people, you would never know they're wealthy. I mean, I just gave you the statistics. Right? You're probably not going to know people are wealthy because they're not the ones living in the fancy houses, driving the fancy cars, going out to eat constantly, the social butterflies or whatever. That's not them. So you're probably not going to suspect who they are. He continues, most people have it all wrong about wealth in America. Wealth is not the same as income. I made this point way back in the beginning of this series. Wealth is not the same as income. There are a lot of people in this country that have a lot of income. There's a lot of people, a lot of families that make $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. They got a lot of income. They don't have a lot of wealth. They're broke. Right? They've got nothing. Have a little bit of equity in their house maybe, and that's about it. They're literally broke, right? They lost their income, they'd be screwed. Income is not the same as wealth. If you make a good income each year and spend it all, you are not getting wealthier. You're just living high. Wealth is what you accumulate, not what you spend. But almost everybody looks at it the other way. Most people look at people that spend a lot and think they're wealthy. Isn't that what almost everybody thinks? They look at people that spend a lot, nice cars, nice clothes, nice house, nice this, nice that, the boat, the side-by-sides, the whatever, right? The vacation home, the nice vacations, whatever, all this stuff. They look at people that spend a ton and think, man, that guy's got money. I look at somebody like that and think, that guy's broke. That guy's got debt. He doesn't have money. How could he have money spending it like that? What does he make? Like $500,000 a year or something? How do you have money spending money like that? You don't. And then later on in the book, he says, it is unfortunate that some people judge others by their choice of foods, or by their choice in foods, beverages, suits, watches, motor vehicles, and such. To them, superior people have excellent tastes in consumer goods. Listen to this. This is so good. But it is easier to purchase products that denote superiority than to be actually superior in economic achievement. That is so true. It's so much easier to buy things that make you look superior than it is to actually be economically superior. Any idiot who can fog a mirror and sign his name can, quote, buy a new expensive car. That doesn't mean you have any money. That doesn't mean you're wealthy. That doesn't mean that you are economically superior. It just means you can use a pen. That's all. Allocating time and money in the pursuit of looking superior often has a predictable outcome. Inferior economic achievement. Those who look superior are inferior in economic achievement in nearly all cases. What are 3 words that profile the affluent? Frugal, frugal, frugal. Their words, not mine. I'll talk about cars next Sunday, vehicles. That's a big one. That's why most people are broke. But if I forget to say it next Sunday, I probably won't, but if I forget to say it next Sunday, unless you are a millionaire outright, like $1 million in the bank or more, you cannot afford a new car. I don't mean you couldn't write out a check for one or whatever, or you couldn't, take out a loan for one. Anybody can do that. You could even maybe write out a check for it. But I mean you can't afford it. Because here's how you know if you can afford a new car. If you go to the bank and you withdraw $10,000, maybe $20,000, $10,000 to $20,000 in cash, invite all your friends over and put it in a big pile in the yard, light it on fire and roast hot dogs over it. If you can afford to do that, and it's just fun, you're just enjoying yourself, it's just a good time, then you can afford to buy a new car. Because that's literally what happens when you buy a new car in the first year. You are literally torching 10, 20, depending on how much you've spent for the car, thousands and thousands of dollars you are torching in the first year of owning that car because of the massive depreciation. I'll give you all the proof of it next Sunday. I've got charts and all kinds of stuff. That's why I said you can't, unless you're a millionaire outright, you can't afford a new car. Nobody can. You could afford a 2 or 3-year-old car. You can't afford a new car because you can't afford to put a pile of cash in the yard and cook hot dogs over it. If you can't afford that, you can't afford a new car. Here's one more from the millionaire next door. Being frugal in the corner, being frugal is the cornerstone of wealth building. Yet far too often the big spenders are promoted and sensationalized by the popular press. You know, like remember the old show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, right? Have you ever saw that one? I mean, I love watching stuff like that. I love watching videos of the wealthy and seeing their houses and their cars and all that. I mean, people with big houses and big cars are impressive to me. People that own them are not at all. I look at them as idiots, most of them, because they can't afford it and they're broke, right? But the big cars and the houses are awesome. I love looking at that stuff. I mean, I think it's fun to watch and to see all that stuff. But I'm not impressed with the people unless they own it outright and, could actually afford it, which very few of them could. Warren Buffett said, if you buy things you don't need, you will soon sell things you need. That's true. Warren Buffett's got a lot of good ones. Now, there are 2 things that people spend money on carelessly that keep them broke. Does anybody know what they are? 2 things that people spend money on carelessly that keep them broke. You probably wouldn't guess it. You know what the 2 things are? Big things and little things. Big things and little things spent carelessly on will keep you broke. You've got to get both of these things right. You've got to get control of the big things and the little things. Because if you do only one, if you do neither of them, you're totally screwed. But if you only do one or the other, you're not going to do very well. The millionaire next door again. But small expenses become big expenses over time. Small amounts invested periodically also become large investments over time. You know that little $5 here, $10 there, every day, just, latte here, mocha there, pop here, beer here, glass of wine here, whatever. I'm not saying any of that stuff's wrong and you can enjoy some of that in moderation. But if you're doing that all the time and it's just, $5 here, $10 here, that all adds up big time. I mean, big time. If you just took that money and invested it, you'd have gobs of money in decades from now. Gobs of money. Like I said, lattes, drinks, eating out, and unnecessary small purchases all add up over time. However, there are some people that are really good with pinching the pennies, every little thing. They'll cut the tube of toothpaste open and scrape it all out, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I squeeze that thing. I almost give myself an aneurysm when the toothpaste gets to the end. I'm like, oh, I gotta get that last little bit out of there. That's fine, but let me tell you what, you can do that all day long and then undo it with one stupid purchase. You could, I mean, it's just, you got to get the big stuff and the little stuff. However, like I said, you can be as frugal as you want with little items, and it won't make much difference if you're paying tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest on a 30-year mortgage. Cut as many tubes of toothpaste as you want. You have a 30-year mortgage and you're dropping tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. I mean, you'd have to brush your teeth like 10,000 times a day to save enough money on that toothpaste to even make a small little dent in that interest that you're paying. Or financing new vehicles. Like I said, you buy a new car, I mean, you literally just torched $10,000, $20,000. You know how frugal you'd have to be with little stuff to try to make up for that? Buying expensive toys, I mean adult toys, not kid toys. See, this is called being penny wise and pound foolish. Skimping on every little thing. But then, buying a new car. Makes no sense whatsoever. Recycling Ziploc bags won't counteract this. Buying a new car negates 10 lifetimes of recycling Ziploc bags. 10 lifetimes. I mean, you can save all the bags you want, all the aluminum foil you want, all the toothpaste you want. You can cut open, I mean, I know other people I've heard, and this is fine, but like cut open the mayonnaise container and scrape everything out. You can do it, and that's great. That's good. Waste not, want not. One new car purchase negates 10 lifetimes of all that stuff. That's why I said you got to get the little stuff and the big stuff. Now here's another one that most people get wrong. And that is that high-paying professionals are usually big spenders and are therefore broke. Most people look at the high-paying professionals and think that these people are wealthy. In most cases, it's not the case. You might think that high-paid professionals such as doctors, they're the worst, actually. Doctors, lawyers, accountants, executives, people like that, you might think that they're wealthy. But in many cases, you would be wrong. High-income professionals are expected to look the part. That's part of the problem. Part of the problem is they go into massive debt to get the education to get where they are, especially doctors. I mean, years and years and years and years. I mean, and the hire like a surgeon or something like that. I mean, you're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, which takes them forever to pay off. But the thing is, they could, with that $500,000 salary, pay off that debt very quickly, but they don't. Why? Because they've got to look the part. Right? You can't be a surgeon or even a regular doctor and be driving an old jalopy. Well, you can, but they don't feel like they can. You can't be living in a regular old neighborhood in just a little dinky normal house while you're paying off all your debt and laying up money to do better in the future. They feel like they can't do that. They've got to look the part. They've got to have a high consumption lifestyle, living in high-end homes, driving expensive cars, wearing expensive clothes, because that's what they think they have to do, and that's what they do. They walk in a vain show. Just give you Psalm 39 and verse 6. This is what it comes down to a lot of times. High-paying people in high-paying fields, they're walking in a vain show. They could be doing so well. I mean, just even doing halfway decent with money, they could be set for life so early in life and really enjoy themselves carefree if they just spent the first few years doing things right. Psalm 39 and verse 6. Surely every man walketh in a vain show. That pretty well describes American culture, especially among the high-income earners. They believe that they have to do this because their clients will judge them as unsuccessful if they live a modest lifestyle. And this is true. I mean, they think, oh man, if I can't drive some old beater car, what are people going to think of me? Right? What's an accountant? He's going to say, what are my people going to think of me if I'm driving an old car? A doctor, what are people going to think of me if I'm driving an old car? Right? So they end up in this, getting on the wheel in the rat race. Just more and more debt, never get out of it. Many of these people are broke. And that's why I think being a highly educated professional is more likely a curse than a blessing when it comes to saving money and building wealth. Yeah, they make a lot of money, but they're not really wealthy because of the expectations that people have put on them and that they have succumbed to themselves. Here's a quote from Thomas J. Stanley's Millionaire Next Door. Another reason very wealthy people tend to lag behind on the wealth scale, so this is not just my opinion, this is what the research shows, has to do with the status ascribed to them by society. Doctors, as well as others with advanced degrees, are expected to play their parts. Dr. Denzi, he's just going to give a couple of names here, examples in the book. You don't have to worry about who these people are. Mr. Denzi is a small business owner. In spite of being wealthy, he is not expected by society to live in an exclusive neighborhood. He would not be out of place living in a modest home or driving a nondescript sedan. His domestic overhead is significantly lower than Dr. Doak's. Many people tell us that you can judge a book by its cover, meaning that high-grade doctors, lawyers, accountants, and so on are expected to live in expensive homes. They also are expected to dress and drive in a style congruent with their ability to perform their professional duties. How do you judge the professionals you patronize? Too often people judge them by display factors. Extra points are given to those who wear expensive clothes, drive luxury automobiles, and live in exclusive neighborhoods. They assume a professional is likely to be mediocre, even incompetent, if he lives in a modest home and drives a 3-year-old Ford Crown Victoria. You can tell this book was written in the 90s. Nobody drives a 3-year-old Crown Victoria today. There is no such thing, right? Those things have gone the way of the dinosaur. Very, very few people judge the quality of the professionals they use by net worth criteria. I do. I've already told you that. I do. I don't care what he drives. I don't care what he wears. I don't care where he lives. Show me your bank account, buddy. That's the only thing I care about, at least for a financial advisor. If he's a doctor, I mean, that's different, I guess. But financial advisor, accountant, somebody that deals with money, show me your bank account. I don't care what you drive. That doesn't matter to me. As a matter of fact, what you drive will probably make me not think well of you if it's some fancy schmancy thing that you can't afford. Anyway, many professionals have told us that they must look successful to convince their customers/clients that they are. Now, this doesn't just go for high wealth individuals. As a pastor, I have honestly felt a little bit uncomfortable at times with where I live and what I drive because it doesn't look like it's becoming of a man of the cloth. Because pastors aren't supposed to live in cheap apartments. Pastors are not supposed to drive old clunkers, right? Pastors are supposed to look respectable and whatever else. You know, they're supposed to live in a respectable place. And so I'll be honest with you. I've been, over the course of the last 12 years or so, I have been a little sheepish about even telling people where I live. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll just say, oh, I live on the west side. I live out by Walmart. You know, they're probably thinking, oh, those nice houses right north of Walmart there on McCleary or whatever it is. No, it's that cheapest apartment in town, over there, a half mile from it. There have been times that I've parked my car far enough away and walked so nobody would see what I was driving. Especially when I was doing my web design business. I don't really do that now, but when I was doing my web design business, I'd park somewhere else and walk so that the business owner couldn't see what I was driving, because I know how people think. People are stupid. They think, oh, old car, this guy can't design websites. Like that has anything to do with anything. I mean, maybe I couldn't design websites, but it had nothing to do with my old car. I can tell you that much. But then at times I've had to remind myself, why should I care what broke people think? Why should I care what broke people think? Because anybody that would look down their nose at somebody living in an apartment, saving up money to live in a house, and think, oh man, that guy, what a pathetic piece of trash he is. Why would I care what somebody thinks like that? Somebody like that thinks. And furthermore, nobody with any money would think like that. Anybody that actually had any money would say, you know what, that guy's smart. That's what I did when I was younger. I underconsumed and lived someplace that I didn't want to so that someday I could live someplace that I really wanted to. Right? Somebody that actually had money wouldn't look down on somebody like that. Some broke guy living in a huge house he can't afford, driving a big car he can't afford, he would, but not somebody that actually has money, chances are. So why would I care what broke people think? Actually, I felt the same way when I was an engineer, and I was making decent money back then. But all my friends were living in either nice houses or nice, like, higher-end apartments and driving nice new cars and all that, and I'm living in the cheapest apartment that I could find and driving some old small cheap car. And I felt a little sheepish. I just kind of felt a little out of place. But again, I didn't care what broke people thought. Why would I? We should not care what other people think if we're living wisely. Let me give you a couple of verses. 1 Corinthians 4, 3 through 4. 1 Corinthians 4, 3 through 4. Paul says, "But with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged of you, or of man's judgment. Yea, I judge not mine own self. For I know nothing by myself, yet am I not hereby justified, but he that judgeth me is the Lord." Now this is a different context, but I'm just going after the principle here. Paul says, it's a very small thing if I'm judged of you. What do I care what you think? As long as I'm doing the right thing. If I'm doing the right thing and God is pleased with what I'm doing, what do I care what anybody thinks? Whether it's people in the church or outside of the church, what do I care what they think? If I'm doing what God says, and God is pleased, and His judgment's the only one that I really care about, what's it really matter what anybody else thinks? 2 Corinthians 3 and verse 1. Now I'm not saying, and I know none of you look down on me for where I live or what I drive. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about people out there in the world. 2 Corinthians 3 and verse 1. Do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, epistles of condemnation to you, or letters of commendation from you? Again, totally different context. I'm just going after the principle. Do I need letters of commendation from some broke dude down the road who's living in a big nice house, driving a great big expensive car? Do I need his commendation to tell me, hey, you look like you're doing well in life? No. Why would I care about that? I don't need that. We should not judge according to appearance, but we should judge righteous judgment. Remember what Jesus said. And this is a hard thing to do because every one of us will get caught in this. I'll be honest with you. There's been plenty of times I see somebody driving an old junker car, an old clunker, and my first thought is, yeah, that guy's broke. And he very well might be. There's probably a pretty high likelihood that he is. But it's really a stupid assumption on my part because not everybody that drives an old clunker is broke. Some people that drive old clunkers have a lot of money, and that's why they have a lot of money, because they've driven old clunkers their entire life. But it is human nature to look at that and say, oh, that guy's broke. And we shouldn't do that. Now, one thing I don't do anymore is look at somebody that's driving a big fancy car and think he's got money. I never think that. It's like Ramsey says, and I agree. When I pull up beside somebody in a big, nice, fancy car at a red light, my first thought is debt, and he's broke. Like, I don't ever think, oh, that guy's got money. It's possible he could, but most likely he doesn't. Anyway, Jesus said in John 7:24, judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Not the appearance. If you haven't figured this out, things aren't always as they appear. They're usually quite different. Remember when the Lord chose David to be king in Israel? And David was just some young kid. I think he was even late teens. He's just some young kid, took care of the sheep, wasn't impressive, wasn't a big man at all. And when all the sons of Jesse were paraded in front of Samuel, and he's going to pick them, and they start with the oldest, and I think there was 8 of them, and they keep going through, and Samuel saw one of them, the oldest one, I think, and he said to himself, this has got to be the guy right here. And the Lord says, nope, it's not. Turned out to be David, the little one. 1 Samuel 16 and verse 7. I'll just read you verse 6, which is what I just made reference to there. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab and said, Surely the Lord's anointed is before him. He was apparently impressive looking. But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. See, God wasn't looking at how tall, how muscular, how big, how handsome David was. He wasn't looking at any of that stuff. He was looking right through him, directly at his heart. And that's what the Lord's concerned about. He's concerned about your heart. He's not concerned about your outward appearance. He's not concerned about where you live. He's not concerned about what you drive. None of that stuff matters. It's fine to live in a nice place and drive a nice car, all that stuff. But that doesn't make you a good person. That doesn't make you right with God. And if you're doing it the wrong way, it doesn't. It makes you wrong with God, actually. Because God tells you how to manage your money, and that's not how to do it. Doing it with all this debt is not the way you're supposed to do it. I've heard people ask, people that even should know better, would you choose an investment advisor who was wearing an old worn-out suit and driving an old clunker for a car? I've heard people ask that. Personally, I'd be intrigued by such a fellow, and I'd want to inquire more about him to see if he's good at his job. Because to me, if I find a financial advisor that's got the guts to drive an old clunker and wear an old worn-out suit, and he seems like he knows what he's doing, that to me tells me this guy's a man of character and he doesn't care what any of the rest of these people think. I'd be intrigued by that guy. I'd want to find out more. I don't care what kind of a car a financial advisor drives. As a matter of fact, I'd be very wary of one who drives a brand new expensive car, because that tells me he probably does not make good financial decisions. Like I said, when I see a new, and especially a new expensive car, I think two things: broke and in debt. Like I said before, I might be impressed with the car, but I'm not impressed with the person. The car might be cool. I might like to look at it, but I'm not impressed with the person. For me, and I've already told you this in the past, one of the most important questions for a financial advisor is, what is your net worth outside of your home equity? And I've asked this now to 6 different financial advisors, 4 of which gave me answers that were all good. Some of them were quite impressive, but they were all impressive. They were all impressive enough. 2 of them wouldn't. You know who the 2 I didn't go with were? And it wasn't just for that reason, but that could have played into it. But there were other reasons too. And I didn't go with the highest one either. They gave me numbers, and actually I went with the one that would have been the second highest, because I liked the guy. I thought he was good, courteous, punctual, just seemed like a good all-around guy. Gave me lots of his time, and I was impressed with him. I liked him. My wife liked him too, and so we went with him. So it wasn't like I just look, who has the highest net worth? I'll go with you. No, not necessarily. Net worth is important, but it's not the only thing. Now, I'd say if an investment advisor, financial advisor, doesn't have a net worth that's at least in the multiple hundreds of thousands, depending on his age, then he apparently doesn't know how to manage his own money, so why would I trust him to manage mine? But I've already talked about all that. So I think, let me see, how long have I been going here? I could finish this section. This won't take very long. I think I will just finish it because I want to start off next Sunday with a totally fresh subject. So this is kind of a fun one on when it comes to spending money. And I'll make this brief. But you want to look for good deals and ask for discounts. And you can save a ton of money by doing this kind of thing. You can save a ton of money by shopping at a thrift store. And I've already talked about that, so I won't say a whole lot more about it. But I've bought most of my clothes over the years at thrift stores, and I've saved hundreds and probably thousands of dollars in doing so. And I'd say especially anybody that's got kids. My goodness, kids' clothes are expensive. You go to the mall and buy new kids' clothes, and especially when they're young and you're buying them constantly all the time, you could save a ton of money going to thrift stores or hand-me-downs or whatever. It's a pain in the butt, I know. I don't like it. You got to look through, sift through stuff, and you can't find exactly what you want. But man, can you save money at it? Buying things on sale from scratch and dent retailers, you can save a ton of money on that. And usually it's not like the thing looks like it went through a tornado. It has like one little scratch on it somewhere, sometimes on the side. You can't even really see it. So you can get something, who cares? I mean, for me anyway, who cares about some little scratch or dent when you're saving $500 on a refrigerator or something? I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. Here's the other thing. If you pay cash, and I mean actual physical cash, I don't mean, a check or a credit card or anything, even if you have the money to pay for it. I mean actual bills. If you pay cash for things, you can often get a discount. And this goes for products, could be new or used products, lodging, like hotels or B&Bs. I've saved a ton of money on lodging. Usually I don't stay in lodging. I've got friends and family all over the country, so most of the time I stay in people's spare bedroom for nothing, so that can save you a lot of money too. Most of our, quote, vacations are staying with friends or family, and that'll save you a ton of money. But anyway, if you offer a hotel owner, especially if it's a mom and pop, if it's some big chain or something, then they probably can't do anything. But you go to a mom and pop hotel, and they're not always the nicest, that's true. But if you find one, especially like in a small town, like in a little tourist town or something, mom and pop place, and ask them, well, if I paid you cash, how much would you give me this room for? Guarantee you can save a lot of money. They'll take that cash, you're not going to pay sales tax, and you're going to pay a lot less for the room. So that's a good way to save money. Furniture, you walk into a furniture store and you got cash, actual cash, that can, as they say, cash is king. That can make differences. Cars, depending on what kind of car you're buying, walking up with $25,000 cash is probably not. You could, but try getting that kind of money out of the bank. You want to jump through some hoops. You want to be treated like a criminal. Try taking $10,000 out of a bank account sometime and see what happens. But anyway, but if you are actually paying for the car, you can get deals too sometimes. Houses, medical care, you can get cash discount. I get cash discounts all the time when I pay for medical care. Services like a mechanic or a plumber, always ask, do you give a discount for cash? Some restaurants now are giving discounts for paying cash. It's right on the receipt. Willow Spring Mercantile is right on the receipt. If you pay cash, you pay this much. If you pay with a card, you pay more. I'm like, heck yeah, every time I go up there, are you paying cash? I'm like, darn right, I'm not giving money to those banks. And they all laugh. Like, they love it. And they love it because they're saving money too, right? They don't have to pay the credit card fees. And lots of other things too. So always ask for a discount. Never forget that. Learn to negotiate, especially on larger purchases. Here's what Ramsey had to say. I thought this was good. This is in his Dave Ramsey's Complete Guide to Money. Just start with the assumption that you can get anything at a discount. Assume that the sticker or sales tag says, quote, price starting at, before the actual listed price. It's the starting point. It's not the final price. Get it into your head that everything in every store in every city in the world is negotiable. You just have to ask. You have to make it a way of life. Now, I don't know about Walmart and things like that. I'm not sure that you could do that. You get a discount there. I mean, he sort of alludes to that. But in many places, things are negotiable. I mean, it's obviously, especially cars and things, furniture. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that. It's definitely negotiable. Yeah, you just have to ask. Now, anybody that's ever been to a foreign country, most foreign countries, know this is how it works almost everywhere. Wayne knows. He's been there, right? Mexico, Central America, Middle East. When I've been to countries in those places, it's a way of life. You would be an absolute moron to walk up to anybody and you say, how much is it? And he says 20 pesos and you hand him the money. I mean, you'd be the dumbest person in the world to do that. Like, you'd never pay the sticker price for it. That's a starting price. He says 20 pesos. You're like, no, I can't pay that. He's like, okay, how about 15? I'm like, no, I can't do it. I'll give you 5. Oh, no, I can't do it. No, I do 20, I do 12. No, I'm like, no, 5. You know what? Actually, I'm thinking more like 3. No, 10. Eventually you get them down to 6, right? I mean, it's just the way it works. When I was overseas, when I was in Iraq, I went into this store one time, and this guy was selling these really nice rugs. The rugs that I have in my apartment, if you've seen them. Really nice rugs. And I forget what he wanted for them. It was a lot of money. I mean, maybe like $1,000. I don't remember. It was way up there. It was a lot of money. And I didn't want them. I was just going just to look around. And he just locked onto me. And he wanted to sell me these rugs, and I'm like, no, I don't want them, really. Oh, no, we be friends. I'm like, well, we can be friends, but I don't want the rugs. Oh, no, I give you a deal. I'm like, I really don't want them. And he just keeps coming down and down and down. I'm like, I don't want it. I really don't want them. I don't want them. I don't. Comes down. And he comes down to like $200 or something like that. And I mean, these things, you couldn't buy them at the PX for anywhere near that. And they were nice rugs, and he was going to ship them for free, and he did. And so I'm like, finally, I'm okay. I mean, he beat me down enough when he must have dropped the price. I don't even know how much. And so I bought them, and I still have them today, and they're still in great shape. I mean, 20 years later. So, but anyway, in a foreign country, never, ever, you wouldn't pay full price for anything. And you can think about that like that here. Anytime somebody's selling you something, especially a private individual, you never pay the price he first asked for, and never offer a price. He who speaks first always loses. Never offer a price. If somebody says, what do you give me for it? You say, I don't know. What do you think it's worth? And just play that game with him. Always make him give you the first price. You give the first price, you lose. All right, so let's look at Ramsey's 7 basic rules of negotiating. Rule number 1, always tell the truth. Always tell the absolute truth. Never deceive when negotiating. Now, he didn't have this verse, but it came to mind. Proverbs 20 and verse 14. Proverbs 20 and verse 14. And don't feel bad about Jewing somebody down either. I know that's a politically incorrect term these days, but don't feel bad about that. They're not going to sell you anything at a loss, right? I mean, it's not like they're ever going to. They know what their bottom line is. When he says 20 pesos, he knows he really wants 5 out of it, and if he can get 6 out of you, he's going to be happy, right? That's the way they do things. So don't ever feel bad about trying to talk somebody down. He can always say no. Proverbs 20 and verse 14. It is not, saith the buyer, but when he is gone his way, then he boasteth. It is not. Not means, when it's used as an adjective, it means of no worth or value, good for nothing, worthless, useless, bad, poor. You never want to deceive somebody by doing that. There would be people that would go to an estate sale or go to a yard sale, and there's a widow there, and she's got a Snap-on toolbox full of Snap-on tools. You'd be like, oh, that's worthless. I mean, ma'am, just think about it, the name Snap-on. What kind of a tool? Like, they snap together. They're like kids' tools. I mean, they're junk, right? The Snap-on. Who would buy tools that are called Snap-on, right? These are cheap junk tools, and $50, I'll take that whole tool chest and all those tools. I'll take them off your hands, because otherwise you probably won't even be able to give them away. That's called lying. That's called deceit. That's called theft, right? Those tools are worth thousands of dollars. So always tell the absolute truth. This applies to buying or selling. Ramsey's number 2 rule of negotiating. Use the power of cash. Because cash is king, right? Cash talks. Credit walks. So use the power of cash. Number 3, understand and use walk-away power. That's very powerful. You go up to a used car lot and you want to buy a car, and the guy comes out there and he tells you what it costs. You're like, no way, that's too much. I'd give you X amount for it, way less. And he's like, oh, no, we can't do that. All right, thanks. Just walk away. Say another word, walk away. Oh, whoa, hold on. I can go talk to the manager. Hold on. No, I'm good. Walk away. Come back a week later. You got to be patient, right? But walk away. You've got more power than you think, especially if it's at the end of the month. You want to go shopping for a car, go shopping at the end of the month. They need to make their quota. They want to get their month's sales in. Go there, on the 26th, 27th, 28th, and just walk away and watch them come crawling on their hands and knees begging you to take the thing. Maybe. Rule number 4, shut up. Don't talk too much. Shut up, don't talk too much. This is a really important one. It says in Proverbs 17 that even a fool, when he holdeth his mouth, is counted, or holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. He that hath knowledge spareth his words. Right? So you want to keep your words few when you're negotiating, because usually the person that ends up talking a lot just will end up talking himself right into a hole. You don't want to do that. Proverbs 29:11, a fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards. He who speaks first loses. I just saw an interview with a billionaire, I think it was just yesterday, and he made that point. When you're negotiating, he who speaks first loses. The guy was trying to negotiate with a bank to get some kind of a loan for some big hotel he was building or something, and he waited a whole week. Every time he wanted to pick up that phone, he's like, nope, I'm going to wait. Waited a week for that bank to call him finally with an offer. He waited. You always want to make the other guy give the first price. And then when the deal is done, shut up. That's where a lot of people mess up. Once the deal is done and they've already agreed to it, then you keep talking and then the person changes his mind. Shut up. When the deal's done, sign the paperwork and shut up. Don't say another word about it. Ramsey gave the example. He drove past the dealership one time and saw a used Jeep sitting there and he thought the thing was cool looking. He didn't want to buy it, but he just drove by, and so he stops and he gets out and he's just looking around, looking at the Jeep. And the salesman comes out. Ramsey didn't say anything. The salesman's like, yeah, this is a nice Jeep. It's $8,000, it'd be a good deal. And Ramsey's like, He just kind of keeps looking around. The guy's like, yeah, it's got this and that. And it does have a little dent here, a little ding. We could probably go maybe 7 on it. And he just keeps walking around, doesn't say anything. And the guy just keeps coming down and down and down and down. Ramsey just didn't say anything. I don't think he ended up buying it anyway. He didn't want it. But sometimes just keep your mouth shut and the guy will just do all your negotiating for you. He'll just keep bringing the price down. All right, rule number 5. That's not good enough. Quote unquote, that's not good enough. Somebody gives you a price and they say, hey, okay, this is the best we can do on this car, $10,000. You're like, that's not good enough. And just stare at him and let that deafening silence kill him. That's not good enough. Just stare at him. He'll come up with something better. And then there's the good guy, bad guy. This is what sales reps do when they go talk to the manager and come back with a number. You ever done that before? You're negotiating with a sales rep and I don't know, I'll have to go talk to the manager, and he goes back, he's gone for 5 minutes, he comes back. Let me let you in on a little secret based on what I've read anyway. When he goes and talks to the manager, he went back to the water cooler, he got some water, he goofed around on his phone for 5 minutes, he comes back and says, oh man, boss says we can't do any better on that one. Nope, that's as low as we can go. You know what you say? That's not good enough. And leave. See what happens. Maybe all of a sudden the boss changed his mind. They try to position themselves as the good guy between you and the bad guy, the manager. So you want to beware of this when you're dealing with sales reps. And then here's the last one. It's the if I takeaway technique. And I'll read it to you here what he said. He said, this one can be fun because you never know what you can get out of it, or what you get out of it. You use this one near the end of the deal after you've pretty much figured out that the price has gotten as low as it can go. That's when you say, okay, if I take the car for that price, you've got to throw in new wipers and floor mats. Or if I take the house for that price, you'll have to cover the closing costs. The point is to agree to the price, but then throw something else into the deal. I thought that was pretty slick. So, maybe try some of those negotiating techniques sometime when you're trying to buy something and see if you don't end up winning. And next week, we're going to pick it up and I'm going to talk about something very interesting. I'm going to talk about the number one reason why most Americans are broke, and that is vehicles. And I've got all kinds of facts and figures and all kinds of stuff for you to tell you how to win with vehicles. So, Lord willing, we'll get to that next week, and I thank you for your kind and patient attention.